Hey guys, and today we're talking to a famous Scotsman. You know, like Ewan McGregor or Gerard Butler, except that this one's not as good looking and nowhere near as wealthy. But he is Scottish, and more importantly, he was available. We're gonna sit down and have a chat with Simon Crane. That's coming up right after this. Simon, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you waking up at the butt crack of dawn.
It's
Uh,
yeah. I mean, it's quarter past, it's 10 past 2 now. It's not even the crack of. This is that weird hour or but it's not late night, but it's not early morning either.
I do appreciate you donning the robe.
Well, I've got nothing on underneath, so
We'll save that for the end, so hang in there. So that makes me a little nervous to ask you what you have on at the moment. Are you wearing a watch or is it just the robe?
no, I'm watchless right now. I've got there you go. Well, that's just randomly lying on the table is my Omega. That's been on today. But as I say, that's just randomly lying around.
How are you enjoying the Omega?
All the sort of talk about watches not being too big and too thick. It is a big, thick watch, but I can't. I'm enjoying that right now, having a quote unquote big watch.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's got a lot going. It's got a lot happening to it. I know it's a generic movement. It's in it right now. I don't really care. I mean, NATO Steve commented on one of my videos today about if I was still looking for an Explorer 2, and I thought, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm just gonna. I'm quite happy with what I've got right now. I'm quite sort of. I've got my Vostok and my Seiko for what where to work and sort of kicking around. And I've got the Rolex and I've got the Omega for, you know, my Rolex is my day off watch. The Omega sort of can flirt between the two. So I had that on a day off today, and then I might wear it to work tomorrow. I might not. I just put the Vostok back on. So yeah, I mean, I'm sort of a good place right now with my watches.
What happened to the Grand Seiko, the vintage Grand Seiko that you had? What'd you end up
I
doing with
sold
that one?
that. I sold that to a friend of it, a guy called Blake, who's a member of the various watch groups. Vince has got his own. He's put a few videos out, albeit not for a wee while. But I sold that to him.
Wait, did you
Gosh,
say
that must have
you
been
sold it? You sold it to Swiss Vince?
yes.
Oh, I know. Yeah, okay, I know
So,
who you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. I meet up with him. He comes up from where he lives down in England. He travels all over Britain. So when he's up this neck of the woods, I'll hook up with him. We'll go and have a coffee and whatnot. And I brought it along one day and he liked it. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I mean, just take it away with you and borrow it. And he sort of ended up saying, how much do you want for it? And that was it. I wasn't wearing it because I just recently bought the Rolex. That was about October. That was. So I had that in the Rolex for a couple of months. And of course, just wasn't getting any wrist time.
Hmm.
And so he's blagged it.
Well, you said you're not thinking about getting anything else for a while?
It's like when I bought the Omega. I bought that because it was a good deal. It was a really good price. I saw it in the shop, and I come home and I phoned Craig up and I said, "Look, I've just sort of had a look at this the Seamaster chronograph," and I sort of told him about it. I said, "Look, Pucker," and sent him a few pictures. Told him the price, and he said, "Christ, I said, I'll go back and get that." He said that was cheap. Um, so I phoned the shop up the next again day and said, look, would you keep it for me to Monday and I'll come in and get it? And they'd done that and in it went, and that was it. And I've had it serviced and it ticks away fine. I couldn't tell you if it's 20 seconds a day out or not because it doesn't go on for any more than a day or two at the time. So precise watch keeping is not, ironically, precise time keeping is not that important to me. I mean, how daft is that? But I suppose it's like people that buy sports cars don't really care. You don't buy a sports car, then care how many miles to the gallon it does, do you?
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, that video where you talked about going back to get that one inspired me to do the pawn shop day where I was grossly disappointed with the not cool selection compared to coming across a Seamaster chronograph. Aside from the vintage pocket watch I picked up, just here they don't deal with them. I think the first pawn shop I went into, and I asked them about watches, and they said, oh, well, the owner only takes Tag and Rolex, and he keeps them. He doesn't sell them. I don't know what he does with them. And I was like, oh, okay. And the rest of the guys said the same thing. They're like, look, we just don't know enough about them to take them. You know, they were pretty honest about it. They said, we don't know enough about them to take them. And, around here, I live an hour away from the nearest big city. So it's still, I don't want to say it's rural, but compared to big cities, it is pretty rural. You know, you go 5 miles from the house, you're going to find farms and stuff like that. So he's like, there's not really a lot of guys around here wearing nice watches. It's like, so we kind of really don't bother with them. So it was a little uneventful. I mean, I went to like 10 pawn shops and I didn't get very much footage, but how often can you find a deal like the one you found? Because you've done a couple pawn shop videos that have some pretty nice stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of things, isn't it? I mean, you look at the shop. I mean, I went in that shop and the shop is absolutely no thrills whatsoever. It's just, the ceiling's a bit crummy. There's a wee bit of damp in the corner. But then you think to yourself, well, okay, the upside of that is I'm not paying for the posh surroundings of like an authorized dealer. And that reflects in the price. There was a nice Rolex Datejust there. It was like 7 or 8 years old, box papers, and it was like $2,500. Again, I mean, that's as cheap as you see that pre-owned. I mean, okay, you can get them. There was an old Datejust there that was cheaper than that, but it was sort of questionable, the age of it, and it looked sort of pretty worn out. But the one at $2,500 was absolutely spot on. And then you say it's like now new. It's like a £4,500 watch. That was a saving. I mean, when I looked in the shop this morning, and I made a video about it months ago, and they still got the watch. A 16-year-old Explorer 2 black dial, £4,900. Right, the general price for a pre-owned Explorer that's older than sort of 10 years old is still mid to high threes in the UK. Yes, you can go on Chrono24 and get them cheaper, but you probably noticed this yourself. The cheap ones are always the furthest one away from you. I mean, I've heard good things and bad things about the grey dealers that are involved. And indeed, good things and bad things about Chrono24 as well. But until I come to buy something again, I shan't really worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously use Chrono24 for the JLC, and the weird thing about that is that I found the watch through Chrono24, and it's the exact same one that I had up in the 2016 Watch Goals video, and we actually did the deal outside Chrono24 because the way that worked is they wanted to do a bank wire transfer. So I called the dealer, and he's actually like a secondhand jeweler as well in Germany. So I called him, and we actually did the transaction through PayPal. So I had a little more protection on my part, just in case I got like an empty box or something, And like I said, on Chrono24, it was really good because it had all the feedback of how many transactions he's completed through Chrono24, how many other people had recommended him. If it had been a private seller, which you can do on Chrono24, or somebody with not a lot of feedback, I would probably have had to go the other option, which was the only other one of that model for sale anywhere, which was a seller in New York for like $2,000 more. And but we did it through PayPal, and thank God everything worked out. But I mean, I was nervous. I mean, that's the biggest amount of cash that I've forked over for anything, aside from like car and house. I mean, that I don't really count that, I guess, really. But so I'm sure there could be some horror stories. I've gotten really lucky, and then most of the other stuff I've picked up on forums, secondhand.
But you'll never hear the horror stories. Everybody wants to tell you about what a great trader they are and how, what a great dealer they are. And I bought a watch off here for X amount and all that, but they never tell you about the Snyder that they, right? That somebody has bought Snyder and refuses to sort of own up about it.
Well, the funny thing is, Nav, do you watch Nav-san's channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's got the guy who bought the Breitling. He hasn't made the video about it yet, but he's talked about it. The guy bought a Breitling off eBay that he thought was original, and then he got it. I mean, it's like $5,000, and come to find out it's fake. Well, he sent it into Nav-san for him to take a look at, but yeah, he got screwed.
Yeah.
And I guess eBay wasn't able to help him get the money back, which I don't understand because eBay is really good about protecting the buyer. They're really, there's a lot more protection for the buyer than there is for the seller, because even eBay or PayPal will give you your money back. So that's a weird situation. I wanted to talk to him more about that because I'm curious as to how he wasn't able to get his money back.
I watched some of the videos that he'd done in China, and I mean, just the sheer volume of fakes that he's looking at is worrying. And I don't know. I mean, it depends what you're buying, who you're buying from. I mean, of course I would. I would absolutely buy pre-owned if I knew the background of the sort of the guy or the watch. If Lord David wanted to sell me one of his watches, I wouldn't have a problem with that because I know where he's bought it from. And I was saying to Alan McMillan the other day when I was talking to him, and the difference between like people going to like grey dealers or a UK dealer, if you had two identical watches, one's from a grey dealer and one's from an authorized dealer, yes, they're the same watch, but you put them two down in front of me and say, well, I'm going to sell both exactly the same, both exactly the same age. And I want, £4,500. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 4.5 for the authorized dealer one, but a little bit less. I know you paid a little bit less for it, so therefore, as far as I'm concerned, it's worth a little bit less.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people, you see that secondhand though. If you look up one watch and you're looking at the same watch and you sort them out by price, you'll notice that the most expensive one has box, papers, stamped AD card, and then typically the lowest price one either doesn't have box or papers or wasn't bought from an AD. It's a gray market piece. So I think people have to accept that as well. If you're going to get gray market or you're going to get secondhand, which is my preference. Anytime I'm looking at a watch, I don't want to have to pay full price at the AD if I don't have to. So if I can go to a reputable gray market dealer or secondhand and everything's intact, I'm expecting to pay that lower price. But I'm also not expecting to be able to turn around and flip it for the authorized dealer price. I think that's, you have to be realistic. It's a little ridiculous to expect to be able to turn, or why would you just buy them all and then turn a profit? So you're obviously not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and there's this is where a lot of guys get a bit, economical with the truth in what they buy or sell watches for. So, I hear a lot of people sort of say, well, I bought it for sort of 3-ish grand. So, well, when you say 3-ish, what you mean is 3.5, which again is a difference. I mean, I'm trying to think of I'm not going to name names, but I can think of an example where we basically, in conversation with the guy, where he was sort of alluding to the price he paid for a particular Rolex, and in sort of questioning him further about it, he actually paid about £600-700 more towards the actual retail price than what he for a new old stock watch, basically a pre-owned watch. And he had originally started saying it was new or as new, and it was sort of £1,200-1,500 shy of retail. We eventually agreed that it wasn't new and it was about £800 shy of retail, what he paid for it. So, it's one of them things where people try and sort of talk up the deal that they got a little bit more than they're being economical with the truth, with what they paid for this stuff.
I never understood that. I never understood that because anytime anybody asks me how much I paid for the watch, I'll tell them exactly what I paid for it. I've it doesn't bother me to say that or do that. And if someone's like, "Oh, you paid too much," okay, well, I mean, I got it because I wanted it, and I was okay handing over the money, or I wouldn't handed it over.
If you're going out, if you're going to go and buy a watch, I mean, there's two types of watches. There's the watch that you really want, and there's a watch that you're buying because it's a good deal, and that's absolutely fine. But there's people who will, make, oh, I've got this watch, it's such a great watch, and well, you bought it because it was cheap, is why you bought it. It's not necessarily the watch that you wanted, but admit that.
Yeah.
Admit that you get something at a good price. Fine, if you flip it 3-4 months later and make yourself a couple of $100 or euros or pounds or whatever, great. If you only lose, it's like the Omega. I mean, if I the time it's cost me my service, if I get my money back, I'll be happy with that. If I lose £200 on the deal, I'll be happy with that as well because it's only then cost me £200 to own it. But I'm not going to stand there and go, yeah, I bought it for X and I've sold it for Y and I've made, X amount out of it. I wouldn't do that. I mean, I probably, even if I did make money out of it, I probably wouldn't admit it.
Well, here's a good question for you. Do you, because you've got I think very conservative size of number of watches right now. So do you see yourself, because you've got two types of collectors. You have people that are buying for investment, or that's how they justify it, which is fine. And then you have
Yeah,
people that are buying because it's what they wanted for however long they
yeah.
choose to enjoy it. And if they lose the money, so be it, because that wasn't the intention that they bought it for. So what camp do you fall in? Are you buying under the premise of investment, or are you just buying it because you like it, and whatever happens down the road is something you're completely okay with?
Yeah, I'm okay with if I lose it down the road. I don't care. Look, there's so many people stand here and will say, "Oh, you're daft if you buy retail and you'll lose your money and all that sort of thing." And I look at these people that really. My question to them is this: how much do you spend a month on a car that you probably don't even or will never own? You're just leasing a car. I know people that £400, £500, £600 a month on a car, right? That they're leasing, to then turn around and say you spent £3,000 on a watch. Are you mad? You think,
Yeah.
no, I'm not mad. Even if I get half my money back in 5 years' time, it's more than what you'll get back. You're just chucking your money down the drain with a car, right? Unless
Yeah.
you're in a sort of old, sports cars and whatnot. People that go fishing have to buy. I spoke to a fisherman friend of mine. Oh, I can't believe you spent X amount on watches. But then he come back to me a couple of weeks later and said, "Do you know what?" He said, "I went home and had to think about our conversation." He said, "And I've spent about £8,000 on fishing equipment."
Whew.
So and there's a lot of guys as well who collect, who the investment collectors. I'm doing a lot of this tonight. Yes, it's an investment. It basically, I mean, a lot of them probably can't really afford the watches they've got, because I've seen it where I watched a video. Well, I can't even remember the guy's name. I don't subscribe to him. I crossed his video, and he basically sold two watches because he needed to get himself a new car. And I thought, well, if that was the case, then were you really in a position to buy them watches? So there's a few guys like that. If push come to shove, and they had a few lean months, they'd be selling, watches left, right, and centre. Yeah, so I'm not an investment collector, definitely not. Not not with Seikos and Vostocks anyway. Yeah, who cares? Who cares? But no, I'm happy with what I've got right now. I'm quite on that plateau where I'm sort of happy just to, you know, trundle along. And if someone comes up, um, well, we'll see. We'll see. So, I'm just sitting there quite happy twiddling my thumbs. I must admit, I am liking the idea of getting a Grand Seiko spring drive, but then the reverso, I always come back to that. I tried when I was at Porsche the other night. There was a dealer there, and he had a day-night reverso, like what Don's got. And I tried that on, and just thought, I just keep coming back around to this piece.
Yeah.
It's one of them watches where, oh, you can't wear it, it's a watch, and it won't suit you and all that. I think bollocks to that, frankly. Oh, sorry, I told you I wouldn't swear, but
No, I don't think that's a swear word. Not in America. You're good.
No, not really. I mean, it's not like I said fuck.
Damn it. Shit, Simon.
Yeah. Fucking hell, governor. There you go. But no, I've seen guys on wearing a suit, wearing a deep sea, right? And it suits them because it suits them, right? I mean, like Gary from RW67, the guy in Wales, he's got a deep sea and it suits him. It probably, I've said this to you before, it would suit you, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen other guys. When I was on holiday, there was a German guy wearing a Nomos, an old German man, but he was sort of sat by the poolside in his trunks wearing a Nomos dress watch. And it kind of suited this guy, sort of old, fat German guy, you know, sitting there rubbing himself down with oil all day long. But where am I going with this? I think, and I've tried the point is I've tried a reverser one, and I like it. And even with just a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, shoes, and a sort of winter jacket, I've tried it on and looked and thought, I feel comfortable wearing that. And I don't think, you know, to stand there and say, well, it's not the type of watch you wear with those clothes. I think that's nonsense. I think if you feel comfortable wearing it, you'll get away with it. You know, that will come through, that will come across, and you can wear pretty much whatever you like, be it a big chunky Planet Ocean or Deep Sea, or a dress watch in shorts and t-shirt.
Yeah, I think it's really driven by, you know, your personality and your mood. You know, when I was trying on watches with Don, or whenever I talk to Don, he's always asking me, oh, why don't you like women's watches? And, you know, he'll always kind of show me something a little bit smaller, you know, and I've kind of told him, I'm like, look, I mean, I get it. You know, I've got a 6.5-inch wrist, so I don't have a big wrist. But the bottom line is it doesn't suit me. Like, it doesn't suit my personality to be wearing anything that looks fragile. Nothing about me. I think the only thing that implies fragility is that my name is Crystal, which doesn't suit me at all either. Aside from that, like, there's nothing dainty, small, petite, fragile, careful, you know, about me or my personality. So I just don't feel like it fits. Like, even if it looked like it size-wise it went, it's a dichotomy to me. So it's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
We don't go together.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at if ever you catch Christopher Eccleston's Doctor Who, I thought he actually wore a reverso as Doctor Who. It turns out it's like a Cartier tank that he's wearing, but rough, stolen English, you know, guy. And Lord David's the same sort of type of guy, but, you know, with a leather jacket on, and he's wearing a sort of kind of dainty, rectangular dress watch, but it suited him. So when it worked for him, you know. And as you say, yeah, there's certain people suit that. My wife wears. I bought her a Raymond Veal dress watch, 6-7 years ago. It was when I bought my Tag Monaco, the first expensive watch I bought. First expensive mistake I made. I bought her that watch at the same time. It's never been off her wrist in, crikey, when was that now? That was September 2009. I bought them, and she's worn it ever since. It suits her. It's a woman. It suits her. And that's it. You know, certain things suit certain people.
Spring drive. The spring drive is something to really get and look at. I mean, I know I was completely blown away by the spring drive GMT, and I think that's the GMT I'm going to get now, instead of the GMT Master 2. And my thing with that is that, and I was talking in the comments section about this, is that there's so much that's impressive about that movement. We were having a conversation about how different and how much bigger, what a bigger deal it would be if it had been one of the Swiss manufacturers that had come out with it.
as opposed to being, you know, something that Seiko came out with. Although I think there's some poetic justice in it having been them, since they were the ones that, you know, came out with quartz. But it's such an impressive movement that they've come out. I think it's really it's the biggest evolution in horology in a long time. You know, to have come out in terms of a new movement. And to me, that's just, it's something I would really, really like to have. And the watchmaker that I talked to, Vacheron Constantin, when I was in Miami, he did, so when he graduated from his watchmaking program, they had to write a thesis. And the thesis that he wrote about was the Grand Seiko spring drive. He said that was the movement that he was most impressed with, and it was his favorite movement. And then he caveated that by saying, you know, other than Vacheron's movements, of course, you know, that's one that to me, I've absolutely got to have.
I remember reading the comments on the video one day. I'm sure it was who was that? I think it was Gold Plate Pete that said it, and he actually sort of said about Grand Seiko. He said, you know, people think they're overpriced. He said, but if you see them, what goes into them, they're actually cheap. And I kind of have to reserve judgment of them because I've never the modern Grand Seikos, and I like the Stealth, I like the GMT, I like the Diver one that they do. I've never actually set my eyes on them. I've never seen them in the steel. So, you know, I would like to, but before I took the plunge and bought one, I would have to see one. I couldn't buy one blind, but I've heard that the finishing is absolutely exquisite. But I would like to see one before I took the plunge with them. It's funny how we can all sort of, you get into watches and then you go through this little phase of, you've started with your Orises and you know, you progress to maybe a Seamaster, and you dabble with the sports Rolex, but then you start sort of looking sideways from that in that price range and say, well, what else is there? I've now taken the plunge and spent the sort of $3,000 to $5,000 on a watch, or $7,000 on a watch. What else is there on that sort of plateau in the Rolex sort of price range? And that's when you start looking at like GIOC, and the other side of that, I suppose, is Grand Seiko. And as sort of watch people, you're looking and thinking, yeah, well, you know, do I stay conservative? Do I stay, you know, sort of conform to normality and buy myself a sports Rolex, or do I move sideways from that and buy a Squadra or a Grand Seiko? And which is where a lot of us seem to find ourselves in that little bracket now of maybe not wanting to sort of conform to the norm and buy a Rolex, but then, you know, you look sideways from that at the likes of JOC. Then there's actually buying it. I can imagine that you can get go into the shop and say, right, I've got my money, I'm going to go in there, Grand Seiko, Grand Seiko, Grand Seiko. And when it comes to actually throwing the wedge down, going, I'll have the GMT. I'll have the Rolex instead.
Well, we'll find out, because I'm saving up for it. I'm about a quarter of the way there to the price for the Grand Seiko GMT, and that's absolutely the one I'm going to get. And the funny thing is, you know, and a lot of people probably wouldn't be happy with it, I don't know that my collection will ever have a Rolex aside from the vintage Datejust that I plan on getting, which is a birth year Datejust. As, you know, I plan on having just that as maybe something dressy when I want to wear it, you know, along with the Orient. But aside from that, you know, I don't see myself having one or getting one. And then I guess the more liberating thing, you know, over the last couple of years, the more that I've learned about it and the more research you do, which is something I really think people, you know, have to kind of dig in and do themselves. You know, there's what we say to everybody, which is based on what we know and our opinions, which is a big part of that. And kind of, you know, make the judgment themselves, get in there, take a look at these pieces. But I feel really confident in that. I don't feel like I need to have one. And I don't buy into the school of thought where you can't have a collection without a Rolex.
They tick a massive box in your watch owning journey. I mean, that's a stupid thing. It may sound like a silly thing to say, And I know a lot of guys that say, well, you don't need a Rolex. And then you look at them, yes, but you have a Rolex and you're telling me that I don't need one. So, there is that side of it as well. I'm glad I've got mine. And I'm glad, I thought to myself at the time that if I buy this, it might be the only one I ever buy. I'm going to buy the one I want, not the one that sort of general consensus says to buy. And I know Archie was at me about the sort of Bipolar Explorer 2, and literally I could feel, hands coming down the phone at me, buy one Crane, but I thought, I can see where he's coming from because they are quite a good deal pre-owned, the Explorer 2s. They're definitely the cheapest sports watch apart from the Explorers. But no, I stuck to my guns and thought, no, if I'm going to spend that sort of coin, I'm going to buy the one I want. I know it's not necessarily the one that, a lot of people looked at it and gone, what? I still get comments on my Rolex video from August. People saying, what the hell did you buy this for? But those comments are quickly deleted. No, I wouldn't do that. No, I mean, somebody's got that opinion. That's fine. But I just thought, no, I can't go out and just buy a sub or a GMT just because it's the sort of accepted. I certainly couldn't go out and pay 70% of retail for an older pre-owned sports watch either. So I'm glad I got my Rolex. I still like it. I mean, that's been 9 months now since I got it, and 8 or 9 months. And I'm glad I bought it, and I still wear it, and I still love it. And it's quite satisfying for me. It's quite satisfying knowing that I bought the watch that I actually wanted, and not the watch that sort of general sort of consensus tells you to buy.
But I think that's the key point, is not getting the watch that the general consensus tells you to buy because the general consensus tells you to buy it. It has to be the watch that you want to get. And I guess part of that is the realization that there are things other than Rolex. The incredible thing about Rolex as a brand, and what nobody can take away from them, is the fact that they're still independently owned from this entire time, and the incredible amount of vertical integration that they have within their brand and how much they can do themselves. That's something that absolutely can't be taken away from them. And that's what you're buying into. That's, just the fact that everything can be done in their factory. They're not borrowing anything from anyone else. And everybody and anybody is copying one of the most iconic watches on the face of the planet that was ever made. But to get something, or to save that amount of money for something just because you think that you're supposed to have it, or you think that you need to have it, that's where I think it goes a little bit wrong. It's got to be because you want to get it. Like, you didn't go for the predictable sport Rolex. It's not the one you wanted, and that's how it should be.
Right now, I mean, this is the thing with, especially with Rolex, is that they sort of come up on your radar, and then right now it's sort of disappeared off my radar. Christmas, turn of the year, I was getting a sports Rolex next. And here I are, sort of 3.5, 4 months later, and it's gone off the radar again. But to be honest with you, I mean, that make it was such a good deal. I thought, I'm having that. I mean, I could have spent a bit more and bought an old date just that was in the window. But then I thought, I just liked the idea of having that Seamaster, and I still like the idea of it. And maybe in 3 or 4 months, if I get bored of it, I'll sell it. And so be it. But yeah, it's more about if you're going to spend that sort of coin, you've got to buy the watch that you like and not bother with buying, what other people think you should buy. And there was a saying, somebody said, people buy Rolex to impress other people, but they buy JLC to impress themselves. And I can understand that. I definitely can understand that. And, when I was at that car thing, the Porsche thing the other night, there was the watch dealer, with little independent watch dealer was there, and everybody was going up, and they were pointing at the GMTs and the gold Daytona that he had there, and he had an El Primero and a Reverso there, and nobody gave him a second look. I was sort of watching from afar, and people were just pointing at the gold watches and whatnot. But again, it's like I expect there's people at Porsche the other night who had already pre-ordered their new Boxster, never seen it in the flesh, never test drove it, but they were having it because it was new. It was the new thing to have. and it's as you said, it's probably them sort of people that will buy a Hublot. It's like this is the sort of the new money brand, if you would. I think they're horrible. I just, they're I want to stand outside the shop with a placard trying to get people to boycott them.
They have their regular shelf models. Those are the ones that I don't want to say glorify fashion pieces, but those are the ones they're selling out of. And then you've got the high end that kind of remind you that they can be and have the pedigree of a brand that's more than capable of producing that. But that's not what they're pushing out. Like that's not really what their focus is. But they do have some brands that are very good, some pieces and movements that are very good.
But Tag do that. I mean, Tag. Sorry, I feel a bit sick because I've just said Tag.
Yeah.
No, but in all fairness, I mean, when I've criticised them, people have come back to me and said, yeah, but what about the micro girder, this and the new tourbillon that they've done? I said, you know what? I said, I can go within 20 minutes of where I live into 7 or 8 jewelers. They all sell tags. Not one of them sells these, the micro girder or the higher end watches that they do. Not one of them sells these watches, right? And I said, well, where are they? Because for every 100 that I see, I don't see one of these watches. So you're talking about this uber high end sort of fancy pants movement that they now produced in house. Where are they? It's like when you see a concept car from Renault or Kia or one of these things, some uber fancy space age looking concept car. It's great, but it's just a concept car. And a lot of these watches that Tag bring out, the new tourbillon it's going to be about sort of $15,000 or $16,000 or something. It's going to be like the cheapest sort of mainstream tourbillon watch there is. Where are they? Where are they? You maybe have to go to New York, and there'll be one in the Tag boutique or something.
I wonder. And they're going to do that with a lot of Seiko's parts.
This is it. I mean, a lot of the time they produce these watches just to say, look what we can do, but then sort of kind of don't sort of go into that. Don't sort of carry on with it. And you say, well, okay, but where are they? Where are these watches? I'm sure there's lots of watchmakers out there, lots of sort of, run-of-the-mill brands who have watchmakers. I'm pretty sure the guys that work for like Longines or whatever, watchmakers think, just please just give us let the shackles off a little bit and let us do our thing and create something that's new and impressive. But no, this just sort of no, that's it. You're going to use your generic movements and that's that's all you're going to do. So
what's if you were gonna name one brand that you wouldn't consider owning, would it be Tag?
Tag, yeah. They could show me these fancy Dan micro girders and the tourbillon and all that. I'd go, okay, very good. If they want to lend me one, which I very much doubt after my Tag Heuer equals dog shit video. Yeah, that got shared to the I think it was the Watch You Seek forum.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, it was. I read the comments. It was, beware though that there's some strong language used in this video. I thought,
What does your wife think about the channel? Does she watch any of your stuff?
I sort of take the same line here as what Andy Hunter takes about his wife. When he said to me, he said she maintains that she doesn't watch, but she knows everything that's gone on. But what I think my wife has is a couple of friends who watch, and I'm pretty sure that if I dropped into the middle of a video or the end of a video something about my wife, she would know. But apart from that, she doesn't really say anything. It's when I sort of said to her, well, Crystal's gonna, do a Google Hangouts with Crystal later for a show. All right, okay. And she's sort of what time's that? I said, I don't know, probably about 1 a.m. She sort of just went, mm-hmm, like as if to say, you're mad. But
You need to go to bed probably.
well, yeah. I mean, sometimes I get up from work at this time, but
So thank you very much for waking up in the middle of the night to chat with me. I appreciate it.
I'll leave you to Little Britain. Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, Simon.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
No worries. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so if you guys enjoyed that interview, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And as always, if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. That's it for this one. CG, out.